Welcome to Mystical Blooms. I'm Erica, an astrologer and lunar gardener. So we're a few days away from a full moon and I have a lot of chores to catch up on. I'll kind of show you guys and explain what I'm doing, but it's been really hot and every time I try and take like a video of actually doing the chores, it's so hot that my phone turns off. So I'll just be like kind of explaining what I'm doing and showing before and afters, but it's been really hot and on and off raining, so it's very overgrown. And I have a lot of midsummer pruning and deadheading and weeding to do. So let's get into it. This guy is my salvia. I have a lot of spent blooms right now. And this will be my second deadheading of the season for it, and hoping for a third flush. Every time I kind of deadhead, each flush is less and less. If we keep chopping the spent blooms, we can get color in here and food for the bees. Here in zones, I'm like at the edge of zone 6, almost zone 5. It goes until about October for salvia. And I really love it because it's a nice like structural piece in the garden. It's really great companion planting and the pollinators love it. So we're gonna take care of that first. So there's a ton that I need to do back here. It's been very neglected, like I said, and right before a full moon is, between the new moon and the full moon is my ideal time to deadhead the things that we want to bring back. And in the last quarter phase is the perfect time for weeding, but I missed the last phase and I'm way overdue. So I will be doing a little bit of weeding today just to take out what really needs to come out, some invasive things, and then I'll have to do it again during the last quarter phase. So we can see here I have some creeping bell flower, which is on the Ontario invasive list, and they will self-seed like crazy. So although they're really pretty, they're just gonna take over, which we really don't want, especially next to my brand new climbing rose and my delphiniums, which you can't even see them. They're like all died back. It's way like a month overdue to take care of those. So I'm just gonna cut those right down to the ground. And I'm not like super happy with how this garden looks. But a lot of the things I did have to kind of plant and move this year, and it's not really established. So I am in the middle of kind of redesigning this space. I have some annuals, which they do look nice, but it feels really haphazard to me. And the chamomile looks really great. So I'm happy with the larkspur. I don't know if we can see those there, the larkspur. Which we'll do a real tour. We'll do a real tour really soon. But my lilies, if you can kind of see them in there, I just moved them. I just moved them in May, and obviously they're not established and they just look not happy. So I might just keep them and see what they are doing next year. And then behind me here, next to my beautiful floppy Annabelle, I have some white salvia. I have some white salvia and it's just like not good. So instead of pruning it, because it's white, like it doesn't really even attract that many pollinators, I'm just gonna cut it right down to the ground, clear up some space there, and then in the fall I'm gonna move it entirely. But yeah, I'm just like not loving it, and it's kind of smelly, which is fine if it were to attract pollinators, but it's not even doing that. I think the Annabelle is okay. for right now. It is getting like a little bit burnt, but I'm gonna leave it and see how it does. And then rotate. My rose behind us here just needs a real good deadheading. I might actually, there's a couple new blooms coming up, but like literally a couple, so I might do like a really hardy deadheading, a good midsummer refresh. So I have a rose right here that really needs to just be cut all the way back. This lavender is so beautiful, and I can see it's getting woody in here, but it's not ready to be cut and harvested. So I planned for this one because I will be using it. This is the one that I really like for cooking and around the house because it's so fragrant. And the bees love it. Every day is a bee party in my lavender. So I might actually leave this until about September and then do like just a straight harvest, hard prune, and then just give it a refresh haircut, I guess, in the spring. But I will be treating my other lavender a little bit differently. Let's see who's creeping in here today. He's a chunky boy. And the other day I saw about 13 bees on this lavender plant. They're usually earlier in the morning, and then later in the evening around dinner time is when they really love to come by for their bee party. But there were so many bees, and there were bumblebees, honeybees, and they're just like dancing amongst the lavender, and I love it so much. And we have the daisies, which are definitely past their prime. They need to be cut all the way down, trimmed down for the season. So I think I'm gonna take it like, I still want this foliage because I don't have anything else in this area. Like I have the echinacea, which is beautiful. But everything else in this little corner is an early spring bloomer, which is good to note. So I know for next spring, maybe even the fall, I'm planting something a little bit more midsummer, maybe late summer, maybe rudbeckia, something that won't take up so much space. So when I do some redesigning, I will have to consider that. And in here we have more creeping bellflower right here. So that needs to come out, and the glads look really good, but like they're falling over. So I'm just gonna cut the two that have fallen over and put them in a vase. And this lavender down here needs a straight up hard prune. It is getting so woody and so leggy. So it's not gonna look great, but it's gotta get done. And I think that's everything for the front garden. That plus all the weeding. All right, so this rose right here, oh, a little friend. So this rose right here, I went through and instead of just deadheading, definitely pruned a little hard. It has been a little sickly. This is its second year, so I was a little rough with that one. I did leave this one lavender. It's not done blooming, and the bees are so happy in here. But it is getting really woody in here, you can see. So when it is done blooming in the next, after the next new moon, I will just go through, harvest all of this and start fresh. And that will still give me lots of time before, it's like mid-October, that things kind of start to die down here. So it'll get a second flush there. And it is so massive. So it's a little bit heartbreaking to cut it down, but I have big plans with what I'm going to do with this lavender this year. So I'm excited about that. And this rose right here, this is also its second year, I believe. And I deadheaded a little bit, and you can see I'm already getting some new blooms in there. And I've been having a caterpillar problem. I don't know if you can see in here, but it's not so bad. So I'm just leaving that. Have a ton of regrowth, new growth in there. This lavender here, I took her right down, harvested, and just reshaped. I could see it's getting a little bit woody as well, and I just wanted to really avoid that. So as long as you keep pruning your lavender, take it right down in the fall, about a third of the way, just as long as you don't get into that woody area. So you can see in there how there's still some green, and I just cut above that, not touching any of the wood. And I left a little bit. Some of the lavenders were not done blooming. So I have fresh lavender. Same with this one right here. I pruned a little bit, mostly just harvesting the lavender, and that was a couple days ago. And I have so much regrowth already. And this in here is basically like my my accidental lavender bush. All of this was not planted by me. This little guy right here. I think I just threw down a bunch of clippings 1 year after pruning, and like 2 years ago, and all of this showed up. And I did make the silly mistake of not cutting it back in the fall or the spring. So it's getting really leggy over here. So I'm just going to take extra effort now to shape it, cut it back, because that is going to get out of hand. I do have like moss flocks in here too. So some of that green is not lavender. And then this lavender in between the rose and the hydrangea, I cut all the way back too. It's getting a little woody as well. And then this one is newly planted this year. So I cut it down a little bit, just taking off the new growth. With lavender on the first year, you want to make sure that you water it a little extra than you would regularly with lavender. And you want to take down some of the new growth because you want to concentrate on the roots and not the blooms. So my rose bush here, I'll go around the other side too. I just mostly deadheaded a little bit, and you can see all the red here is new growth. So I will get another flush. And I'm going to fertilize as well, give it another feed, probably now and then one more time in August. I'll probably do that when the moon is in Virgo, so I'll wait for that with the moon Saturn opposition, just to get a real sense of the regrowth. I couldn't beat the sun. It's looking really healthy. So yeah, I think I'll get 1 or 2 more flushes before the fall. And then this lavender just in here, I trimmed it back a little bit, but it died all the way back. I did not cut this one down in the fall, and that was a big mistake. I've been really experimenting with lavender, seeing when I need to cut it down. And I think I need to do a really heavy prune, cut it all the way down in the fall, and then freshen up in the spring, and then halfway through the summer. Seems to be what's working for me. And I didn't do that with this one, and it was a little disastrous. So I just trimmed it a tiny bit, but there wasn't a ton of regrowth there anyways. And the salvia that I cut down deadheaded so much. all this fresh purple came out like a couple days later, and I really tried to get the after in the same day, but I couldn't beat the sun. I was working all the way into the night, and then the next day we went to Montreal for a day trip, so totally missed it. It is now after the full moon, so that's on me. Very bad timing. But you can see what I left has already been spent. So I'm going to go through in about 2 weeks after the next new moon and just deadhead again. And I think the trick with this salvia is just every 2 weeks in the waxing moon phase, I'm just going to deadhead the spent blooms. And if you stay on top of salvia, keep on deadheading in that cycle, make sure that you always deadhead in the waxing phase, you'll get repeated blooms until around October. Like this one usually lasts me until about Halloween. And then you can keep it, I keep the stalks up. In the fall I stop deadheading and let it go to seed. And I like the way that it kind of looks. I did cut it down last fall. I don't think really made a difference because I had to prune it again in the spring. And it does give a lot of like pollinators space if you leave it to hibernate and in the spring to mate. So that's one I'm still trying to figure out. And then in here, if you guys remember, I had to clean it up. I thought I wasn't going to touch these lilies and they were a disaster. I couldn't get anything. And we've been having earwig problems. So I just needed to like make some air in the garden. So I did cut the leaves. I just moved them here this year and they just, the first year after transplanting is never like the greatest. So I did just cut the leaves back just for some air and they'll be fine next year if I choose to keep them here. And then this one's so fine, it started producing more flowers. And this climbing rose right here, I didn't really need to deadhead that much. I have been staying on top of it. And we've been having some intense caterpillar problems here too. So I've just been kind of coming through, just peeking and picking them off as I see them. They've been like, oh my gosh, disintegrating these leaves here. It's terrible. On the new growth. That makes me so sad. And this is sometimes the hard part about natural gardening. You're not just going to go through and douse it in chemicals. So I see one. So this is what I've been doing. I don't know if you guys can see that. Right there. So I take them like that. Let's pluck it off. Never mind that I hate the feeling of bugs, and toss it. I've just been throwing them because it will absolutely destroy. Like look at, oh, there's another one right here. So pick it up. Oops, that one fell on the ground. But look at all the leaves that they'll just like totally destroy. And this was the tallest one. I was excited to be able to see that from the window. But never mind, I guess. Oh, here's another one. He's just chilling, living his best life. I'm sorry. And just toss it. Oh my gosh, there's so much. Well, I guess this is a caterpillar picking day. I will probably tonight just go through and spray some peppermint soap, Castile soap, and water. I don't know. Did I get them all? And that's about as aggressive as I really want to get with my roses. Just a little soap and peppermint oil. You can do neem if it's like truly a problem. I don't really know if it attacks the caterpillars, or repels the caterpillars, I should say. But that seems to be everyone's solution. But it seems like a little too aggressive for me. Oh my gosh, there's another one right here. All right, and I totally cleared out all the creeping bellflower in here. They were really easy to take out, like barely any effort at all. This little spot right there is where I found a massive spider and I had to karate kick it. So we're redoing the siding of our house. I'm hoping next year. So that won't stay. And I cleaned up all of in here. I just couldn't really reach the rest of this salvia type of plant, but it does, like, it makes it so much better. I have a clearer idea of the space that I have, the plants I want to keep in here, and that's going to be my project for this waning phase before the new moon. I'm going to redesign this little space in here, because although I love the plants that are in here, I just don't love how everything is coming together. So the larkspur that I planted by seed this spring, it's doing really good. It's almost done though, so I need to do a little tour, which maybe I'll film that tomorrow morning. Well, everything is still kind of fresh, but definitely more salvia. What do you guys think? More salvia for sure. The chamomile looks good and the rose looks good. And of course the echinacea. But if anyone has any ideas for me, gladly taking ideas. And okay, so this is another rose. This was my accidental rose, and you can literally see the caterpillar right here. This is a problem. And you can see the damage that it's been making, which it's okay, like it's not the end of the world, it just is a little bit sad. And my daisies, so I cut them all the way down. I should have been better at deadheading, because if you stay on top of the deadheading with daisies, you really can get a couple more weeks out of them. And I just wasn't, it was too hot this year and way too rainy. So I let it go too long. It was just past the point of revitalizing, so I just took it right down. And it's splitting in the center, so I might just tie it up a little bit. I like the foliage that it gives, as long as it doesn't brown. Yeah, it's splitting in the center. And I did cut these all the way down in the fall and spring again. And it's still kind of split, like they've been growing massive, so I don't know. So there's a little before and after. Again, I am very sorry that there was a couple days in between and it is now past the full moon. But all of these jobs were done right before it. And this was a really cool special full moon because we had a Capricorn full moon at the beginning of Cancer season, and this was at 29 degrees Capricorn at the end of Cancer season. So 2 full moons in the same sign is kind of cool. It definitely has had a big effect on me in my second house. My garden has been like a really big thing for me in the second house, in an earthy sign, so that's really cool. And kind of restructuring how I'm able to film and time everything and staying on top of the garden. So it's been a learning curve, which is really cool. And after this full moon, I have a ton of new ideas. And I want to hear from everybody. If you have ideas for me, if you want to see more of something, I really want to know. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me on my little garden chores. Until next time, guys, bye.